Well, hello, my friends. Thank you so much for joining me for Hope for Your Heart. This is part 2 on being transformed by your finances and changing the view of money, changing your understanding of money, and giving you some tools that will help you to grow your wealth, not with the purpose of saying, look at how much money I have, but realizing that money is a tool. It's one of the ways that we can glorify God. So yesterday we began the broadcast by looking at several factors that will help you to be transformed when it comes to the matter of producing wealth. And we learned that the first thing when it comes to money is that there's got to be a high level of trust and honesty about where you are financially. Be honest about your situation. That is the beginning of being set free from enslavement to money. The Bible says the love of money is the root of all kind of evil. So we're going to be honest about where we are. We're going to discover that our trust should not be in our money, but we trust in the Lord. Secondly, when it comes to the matter of money, most of us make enough money, we just spend more than we earn. And so we talked about the matter of being frugal with the resources that God has given you, living below your means, living within a budget, having a budget and following that budget. And then number 3, we talked about the benefit of hard work. 80% of the wealth that you produce will be given to you through hard work. You may earn 20% through investment, and that's good, but the majority of your income that you're going to produce is going to be because of hard work. And number 4, we talked about teamwork. Getting somebody to come alongside you to give you insight in what to do in creating wealth. And we talked about maybe using a Dave Ramsey study, Financial Peace University, or getting a financial advisor to help you with your investments, having a team, because we all have blind spots when it comes to the matter of money. And then we talked about creativity, thinking outside the box when it comes to the matter of producing income. My oldest son, when he was just in middle school, he came up with his way to make these bookmarkers. It was a bookmarker that he made out of Elmer's glue, and he would put it into this little form thing that he made, and he put different colors in there, different shapes in there, and he made these bookmarkers, and he was selling them for $1 a piece at school. And I thought it was extremely creative. Well, unfortunately, his teacher discouraged him from doing that, and I tried to lovingly say to the teacher, I said, listen, I want to encourage creativity. I mean, this guy's thinking out of the box, trying to make a little money to buy some snacks at school, and came up with this way of making bookmarks. And I says, I encourage creativity with my children. I mean, as long as you have a legitimate passion, go for it. And God can take that passion and turn it into income. So creativity is so important. Find that passion for your work. That is a key to success. And then we talked about being generous in giving. Donating to charity leads to a stronger and a more satisfying life. The generous soul shall prosper. People who are clear about their priorities and align their finances and their financial goals, and they include in those financial goals generosity. You know, I have set up many years ago my consistent giving to my church. I love my church, and I believe my responsibility as pastor is to lead the way in being generous. And I got to tell you, by nature, I am not a naturally generous person. Some people are. I just am not. I'm just a tightwad. And, my dad was alive during the Great Depression. He's been gone for many years now. And I used to think my dad's a tightwad. And because of the time frame that he grew up, his mom and dad were poor. He was poor. And so he saved everything. My grandparents were poor. My grandfather, on my mom's side, her dad, he was one of these guys that was very creative, and he actually built houses during the Great Depression. And he bought one lot that the only thing that was on this lot was an old beat up chicken coop in the backyard, and he didn't have the money to buy lumber. So wouldn't you know, he took that old chicken coop and took the lumber from that chicken coop and built a house out of it. And I remember the story that was told about that is all the neighbors says, you're going to build that house out of an old chicken coop, and that house is going to smell like chicken poop. And I built that house, and it didn't smell like chicken poop. And amazingly, that was probably about 75 years ago that he built that house. That house is still standing to this day, built out of remanufactured or repurposed materials. Amazing, right? But he was a generous person. When they settled in that little town that they lived up in New England, I remember hearing this story about my grandparents as well. They pulled into that little town and asked the neighbors, where's the local Baptist church? And they said, well, we don't have a Baptist church in this town. And my grandfather says, well, we do now. And he and my grandmother started a church up there in that little town in New England. By the way, that church is still there today. My nieces and nephews have gone through that school that's in that church. My mom and her dad are founding members of that church, started way back in the 50s. Still alive and active today. Just pretty much amazing. 75 years later, that church rather, is still thriving. In fact, my niece was just telling me recently she's going to be working in that little Christian school at that church in that little town in New England. Okay, all because of a generosity of a person who says we now have a Baptist church in this community. So there's something else that will help to produce wealth, and that is learning, always learning, higher education. All leaders have one common trait. They're constantly learning, not just being settled with the information they always have, but always learning new things. Well, today I want to look at the illustration or the parable that Jesus gave in Luke chapter 16. I read this section of scripture yesterday, but the story is basically about a manager who is given the responsibility to take care of his boss's business. The boss goes away and he comes back and he's going to fire his manager because he is figuring out that his manager is lazy. He's not doing what he's supposed to do. And so although this manager was lazy, he was quite creative. So he went around to the people that owed the boss money, and he went to the first one, and he says, well, how much do you owe the boss? And he says, I owe him 800 gallons of olive oil. So the manager says, take your bill and change it to 400. So he cut the bill in half and says, just pay him back to 400 gallons. Head of the manager said, take that bill to the second guy. The second guy had 1,000 bushels of wheat. And the manager says, okay, well, take your bill and say you owe not 1,000 bushels, but 800. So the rich man had to admire this rascal because although he was lazy, although he was not driven, he was pretty shrewd. And then Jesus says that the children of this world are more shrewd in dealing with the world around them than are the children of light. So Jesus here is talking about the fact that if you love money, you know how to be shrewd when it comes to money. He's not recommending this. He's taking a chapter out of what they're doing and say, let's apply that to our lives as believers. So he says, here's the lesson. Use your worldly resources to benefit others and to make friends. He says, these resources are tools. Use money to influence people, not to control people, not to manipulate people, but it's kind of like when we take a mission trip to some of these third world countries and these children are starving to death. And so we say, well, listen to my sermon first, and then I'll give you something to eat. No, we give them something to eat first, so then it can be ready to listen. We use our resources to provide for a physical need so that we can address a spiritual need. And so when we look at what Jesus is saying here, that's kind of the point behind the lesson here. He says, when you do this, when you're in need, then other people will look out for you. And so Jesus says, you can't serve two masters. If you're untrustworthy when it comes to the matter of managing money, this is a measure of how God looks at us. And that's why when you look at generosity, when God looks at the person in their faith, he puts a measuring stick around their ability to give. You see, some people never understand the concept of a generous soul, God looking at the generosity of our heart as an overflow of our love for him. I guess you could bring it like this by saying, if you really love your family, you're not going to be stingy with your family. If your kids come to you and they need something, you say, well, get away from me. I don't want to give you anything. But when you love your family, you invest in them. The same is true when you love the Lord, you invest in his church. And so Jesus says, no one can serve two masters, for you hate the one and you love the other. So we would say, follow the money. Where you put your money indicates what you really love. Now, if that's the case, if you were to look at my bank statement, you would say, that guy really loves Chick-fil-A. When you look at all the times I buy Chick-fil-A food, right? I put my money at Chick-fil-A because I love Chick-fil-A. Well, I also put my money in my church because I love my church family. I love the Lord my God. And that's my high level of generosity. You follow the money. So Jesus says, you hate one, you love the other. You can't be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and be enslaved to money. Now, the Pharisees, when they heard this, they really loved their money. And so they scoff at him. And then he said to them, you like to appear righteous in public, but God knows your heart. What this world honors is detestable in the sight of God. We have a contrast of values. So let's talk about what not to do with our money. And then I want to talk about what you should remember every day when it comes to this matter of money. Number one is don't waste your money. The manager was wasting his employees' money. Buy stuff with interest, payment plans, and that's a terrible way to buy things, right? No, you wait and you save up. When you look at buying things with interest and with payment plans, you pay 20% more when you buy with a credit card that you don't pay off every single month. So don't have memberships that you never use. Don't buy expensive clothes and warranties that are not needed. Don't waste your money on lottery tickets. Listen, if you spent $10 every week on the lottery, you have a very small chance of winning the lottery. If you took that same $10 every week and invested it, you would be a person extremely wealthy. So don't waste your money on lottery tickets. Don't pay what I would call a fool's tax by buying premium coffee, right? This is what I would call the latte factor. It's paying way too much. Why go out and buy a $7 or $8 cup of coffee when you can make it at your house for about 50 cents, right? So I have discovered that wasting money is the number one reason why people struggle financially. So don't waste it, invest it. Number two, don't hoard wealth. Don't trust it. Even a good savings can quickly be gone. It doesn't take long. But don't hoard wealth. The manager thought to himself, now what must I do? My boss is going to fire me. You see, your money can be gone in a flash, as if it had grown wings and flown away, says Proverbs chapter 23, verse 5. So don't hoard wealth. Hoarding wealth means that I love it, and I'm going to just gather as much as I can and can as much as I can gather, and I'm going to hoard wealth. Wealth cannot be utilized if it's hoarded. Wealth, again, is to be a tool. It should be used to make an investment. It is used to be reproducing itself, so don't waste it. Don't hoard it. Number three, don't love it. Don't treasure money. Don't fall in love with money. We are wired, we are designed to voluntarily worship the living God, or you're going to worship something else. Worship is like a magnet. What we worship is what we're drawn to. So you can worship yourself. I think a lot of people do that. Everything is about self, me, myself, and I. I am the center of the universe. I am this globe head, right? A lot of people worship themselves. They are very much involved in their own life, and they think the world just revolves around them. They are narcissistic, and that everything revolves around them. So money is this powerful magnet. It's like a drug. It always needs just a little bit more. I work with drug addicts. I work with alcoholics. And, nobody intends to be a drug addict. Nobody starts off to be a drug addict. They take a substance that gives them a buzz, gives them a little high. And with prolonged use, it takes more to get that same level of high. That takes more alcohol to get that same level of drunkenness, right? Used to be 3 or 4 beers would get you drunk. Now it's a case, right? That makes you have that same feeling. Money is the same thing. It's not just having more of it that will bring satisfaction. Our satisfaction comes from the Lord. So our net worth never determines our self-worth. I have known many people that have a lot of money, but their identity doesn't come from their money. And then I've known a lot of people that have money and their identity is wrapped up in their money, and they're miserable, miserly people. So look what the Bible says in Luke chapter 12, verse 15. Guard against every kind of greed. Life is not measured by how much you own. Ecclesiastes 5:10 says, those who love money will never have enough. How meaningless to think that wealth brings true happiness. It doesn't. It leaves us empty. Money cannot produce happiness. So don't waste your money. Don't hoard your money. Don't love your money. Well, what should I remember every day when it comes to money? Well, I think the first thing is we need to look at money and realize that money is a trust. It's a measure of how much we can be trusted. When we look at borrowing and ownership versus loanership, God owns it all. In Luke chapter 16, it talks about this very wealthy boss who had a manager, a certain rich man who had a manager handling his affairs. And it goes on and it says, if you are untrustworthy about worldly wealth, who will trust you with the true riches of heaven? And if you are not faithful with other people's things, why should you be trusted with the things of your own? As we look at what Jesus is trying to instruct us here, money is a trust. If God cannot trust you with money, he cannot trust you with true riches of heaven. That's how God trusts us. He gives us these resources and says, okay, how are you managing these resources? Are you in love with these resources, or are you managing them well? As you look at the love of money, money will cause you to do things that you never dreamed of if you love it. If you look at it as a trust, you realize that God gives us money as a tool, which leads me to my second point. Money is a trust, but money is also a tool. Luke 16:9, I tell you, use worldly wealth. So the command is that we're to use money as a tool. 1 Timothy chapter 6 says the love of money is the root of all kind of evil. So every principle can have two extremes. Early money is evil. Take a vow of poverty. Only way to be truly spiritual, sell it all, enter a community. That's that evil money principle, right? All money is evil. Prosperity, wealthy, and all that's evil. But the other is understanding that wealth comes from God. So money is a trust. Money is a tool. And as we look at this story of this manager, he did some things right. We got to give him credit where credit is due. He did look ahead, which is an amazing point that I think many times we miss. You got to save some money for that rainy day or for when things are going to happen in the future. So he looked ahead. I want you to know that if you're a young person, you should be looking ahead toward retirement, realizing that your Social Security may not be enough to sustain you in your retirement years. So start saving money today for your future, looking ahead. Verse number 3, it says that the manager thought to himself, now what? My boss has fired me. I don't have the strength to dig ditches. I'm too proud to beg. He says, man, I'm at the point in my life where I can't go out and get a manual labor job. I'm too old for that. I don't have that strength left in me. And I don't want to go out and beg, right? I'm above that, right? The wise man looks ahead. The fool attempts to fool himself and won't face facts. That's Proverbs 14:8. Think forward. When I think about Japan versus the United States, the people in Japan save about 25% of their income. The people in the United States, 1%. And so look at the future. Realize that certain things are going to strap you. A car payment can strap you. Don't buy a boat that you can't financially float, right? When you are unwilling to face the fact about the future, realize that you got to look ahead. Not that you can prepare for any and everything that happens, but certain things are going to come in your future, so you want to save some money for that. And then have a plan. Have a budget. That's all a budget is. It's a spending plan, telling my money where to go instead of me wondering where it went. Luke 16:4 says, the manager says, I know what I'll do. And he says, to ensure that I'll have plenty, I'm gonna connect with these friends, right? I'm work out a deal with these people, and so they will owe me one, right? I'm gonna cut their bill in half. I'm gonna reduce the amount that they owe my boss, and so in the future I can go to them and say, hey, you owe me, right? Because I looked out for you. This is where Jesus is talking about the fact that the people of the world are more shrewd than the people of God. Proverbs 16:9 says, we should make plans, counting on God to direct us. Now this shrewd manager had a plan, and at least he had a plan. It was a shrewd plan, but at least he had a plan. That's better than no plan at all. So we should have plans in our lives, but we should trust God to direct us. James talks about that. He says, before you go to another city and decide to do this or that, start a business, whatever, you ought to consider if the Lord wills. I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that. We also look at this manager. Not only did he look ahead, but he also acted quickly. He invited each person who owed money to his employer to come in to discuss the situation. He asked the first one, how much do you owe? The man replied, I owe him 800 gallons of olive oil. So the manager told him, take the bill and quickly change it to 400 gallons. So he quickly dealt with this situation. He saw the pressure coming his way and he responded quickly. John 9:4 is a strong admonition. We must quickly carry out the task assigned to us by the one who sent us. The night is coming, and then no one can work. You see, time is money. Benjamin Franklin says that time is money, and he says we ought to have a business plan. And so many people talk about things but do nothing. They lose time, and losing time costs us to lose money. So the shrewd manager looked ahead. He acted quickly. And so that is a lesson that we can learn from this shrewd manager. There's something else that we've got to talk about, and we have to remember about money every single day. Money is a trust. Money is a tool, but money is also a test. In Romans 14:12, so then each of us will give an account of ourselves to God. In the story that we're reading, the parable that we're looking at, the rich man came and he had to give, the manager had to give an account of the stewardship that he was living. The test about money is, number one, it shows the love that we have. Don't store up treasures here on the earth where moth and eat them and where rust destroys them and where thieves come in, break in, and steal. Store up treasures in heaven where moth and rust cannot destroy and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. It shows what we love. Money also shows what I trust. We're not to trust money. Those who are trusting in their riches discover that their riches are soon gone. Money is also showing what I value. Use your money on what will outlast you. See, you can't buy your way into heaven, but if you're going to heaven, you will be investing in others so that they can also go to heaven. Ministry that matters is the wisest use of money. looking at this opportunity to give money to your church so that the gospel can be proclaimed. 1 Timothy 16 says, "The rich use their money to do good. By doing this, they are storing up real treasures for themselves in heaven. It is the only safe investment for eternity." People are the real treasure because they last forever. So do your giving while you're living so you know where it's going. Advance the gospel by being a generous giver and investing in the lives of others. Well, thank you so much for tuning in today as we've looked on this very important subject of money. I would be honored to talk to you or to pray with you. Shoot me a text message and I'll pray for you personally. That number is 252-267-2365. Thank you for joining me today.
Hickory Ridge Community Church is located at 3320 Battlefield Boulevard South in Chesapeake, Virginia. Sunday service times are 9 a.m. and 10:30 a.m. We'd love for you to join us. For more information, go to hrcc7.org. And remember, no matter what you're going through, in Jesus Christ there is always hope for you.